we are so close to Gear 5 now. It's only a couple of days away. And with that, a load of people are saying, oh, unreleased and already still more iconic than Super Saiyan. And I wanted to just throw my hat into the ring because, you know what, everyone's going to be talking about it when it comes out. Might as well tell you what the right answer is before it releases, right? Clearly, Super Saiyan is very iconic, but let's talk about Gear 5 first. Gear 5 as an ability is basically built off of Super Saiyan, right? That, like, it's kind of a mix of two very iconic styles, right? You got the standard shonen affair that you got over in Japan at that time period, and then previously, like beforehand, you got the Tom and Jerry style. It's mixing of two of the most iconic forms of entertainment in the world, right? Animation evolved into different styles, from Tom and Jerry to the shonen battle style to what One Piece is trying to do now is mix the two, right? So obviously that's going to make Gear 5 iconic. Gear 5 is a very creative transformation, ridiculous as it's called in its own manga, right? It's a brilliant idea, and it's a fantastic execution by Oda, and it feels like it's been built up since chapter 1, because Luffy just fits that role so well as a character to embody those two iconic styles, right? But you see, the important thing there is that it's built on these two styles. So in my opinion, that alone makes it unable to be as iconic as those two styles immediately. Now, hear me out before you start saying anything about it. Because being iconic is not something you can just say, right? It's something that's earned over time periods, right? We call Dragon Ball iconic because people still talk about it, what, 30 to 35 years after it was released, you know what I mean? People, obviously we've had Super, we've had things like that, but that's one thing as well. We actually want to talk about that. I think Super and GTA and Heroes and all that stuff has made people forget Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z were actually really solid shows. I still go back and watch Dynamic Saga every now and then. I remember when Kai was coming out when I was a kid, and my dad used to burn, like, you know, the Kicks TV channel? He used to burn the Dragon Ball Z Kai episodes onto discs for me, and he had a little case. I wish I had it on me now, but he had a case. We drew like the logo. It was a Dragon Ball Z Kai, and I used to watch it all the time. Dragon Ball is really iconic. It's been around for years. The story holds the test of time. It's also one of the first ones to do the battle shown in that way and have transformations like Super Saiyan. It was, as far as I know, the first, if not one of the first, to have a shonen character transform in such a powerful and iconic way. My friend likes to say, oh, Sailor Moon did it first, but I don't know how that stuff goes. I've never watched Sailor Moon, so I can't say anything about Sailor Moon. But I think a key part of being iconic is that it stands the test of time. Not saying that Sailor Moon doesn't, but Dragon Ball has spread so far to the point where, along with Luffy, Goku was one of the ambassadors of the 2020 Olympics. You know what I mean? We gotta respect how iconic Dragon Ball and Goku as a whole have to be for that, right? And combining that with the idea that Gear 5 as a whole is based on Super Saiyan to a degree. Obviously, it's more so based on Tom and Jerry. That's a whole nother discussion. Again, Super Saiyan's not more iconic than Tom and Jerry, right? Tom and Jerry stands a longer test of time than Super Saiyan would. That's the key point here, that being iconic also means you have to stand the test of time. Gear 5 has only been out for a year if you count the manga, right? You'd have to at least have it out for at least a decade to even start having that conversation, because by the time Gear 5 is a decade old, right, Dragon Ball would be 50 years. And if it's still nearly half as talked about as Gear 5 is at that period of time, man, there's not much discussion there. Like, you have to, it's a very hard discussion to have, but at the same time, man, like, just try and remember how cool it was to see Dragon Ball's Super Saiyan transformation for the first time. Like, it was such an adrenaline rush. So it felt so good to see that, and just the way it was drawn and the pure anger in it, and the change in Goku's character for a while, it was wonderful. And we see as well with Gear 5 where Luffy takes exactly from that, except goes the opposite direction, right? We obviously see a change in their character. Luffy seems possessed for a good while, right? Instead of taking the fight seriously anymore with Kaido, he's just pure joy, you know, embodying that joy boy feeling. And he's just laughing around and having the crack, right? And that's a subversion of what happened with Super Saiyan, where Goku just got really angry, right? But it was so iconic and so powerful, and there's been rips on it over the years. But I do think Super has had an effect where it's dulled our appreciation for it, because Super is kind of a cash grab. The more I look back on Super, the worse it gets, right? Super is kind of a cash grab, so is GT. But the original Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z stories are fantastic and well written. And you can have your problems with it for sure, but you have to admit, everything up until the end of the Cell Saga, for what it is, it's it's really good. I'd say it's nearly flawless. There's a lot of personal flaws you can have with it, but everything ties together well. All the characters are used pretty decently. You know what I mean? And for something that's just been made up on the top of his head, it's really good. But that's why it stood the test of time, right? And that's the key thing about Gear 5 is that it hasn't had the time to stand the test of time, right? So it's obviously it's still fantastic. In fact, I probably do prefer it to Super Saiyan. I'm gonna say that right. I do personally probably prefer it to Super Saiyan because although it is kind of a natural thing instead of like a power boost, it does fit Luffy as a character to a T. It's one of the best transformations I've ever seen, right? Is it going to be better than Super Saiyan in the long run? Definitely. But more iconic, it's very hard to do. Super Saiyan is probably one of those cornerstones of entertainment as a whole, along with the first Mario game and stuff like that. And then obviously people say, I see one or two people saying it's more iconic than Tom and Jerry. It's never going to be that, right? Tom and Jerry is one of the pioneers of the animation industry in the form it is today, right? That's like saying it's more iconic than Mickey Mouse, you know? It's probably not going to be, you know, unfortunately. But it is going to be fantastic. And everyone has put so much work and time into it. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be great. I only wish I had a better TV to watch it on. I was like, oh, I need to save up and buy like a 60-inch TV with 4K so I can watch this in prime glory. But there was no way I was spending that money for one episode. But one day I'll watch it in cinemas. Then I see our friends doing it. They're in like the biggest cinema in the world. They're having like a premiere of the episode. That's like so cool. I mean, that does show that it does definitely compete for that spot. Eventually, it will definitely get to a point where you can say it's iconic. But man, being aired in the biggest cinema in the world is crazy, or in Europe at least. That is insane. That shows the power of One Piece, if nothing else. And it's just, I'm so excited. You know, was this just a way for me to gush about both Dragon Ball and One Piece? Of course it was. Dragon Ball does definitely hold a lot of place in my heart. I watched it a lot as a kid. I watched it in hospital. I watched it actually when I had my biggest surgery, I was watching the Goku and Vegeta fight, right? So basically what happened was, right, I had problems with my knees for so long. There was knee problems and stuff, and one day I just collapsed and I couldn't move anymore. And so for 2 days I was just bedridden, and I was lying there watching the Goku and Vegeta fight, and suddenly the pain came back, and it was agonizing, completely agonizing, and they had to run me into A&E to get the surgery done a couple months ahead of time because it was just so agonizing I couldn't stand it. And I just remember watching the Goku and Vegeta fight, trying to get my mind off the pain and stuff before I went in, and it just got agonizing, like. Because I remember I had watched Kai and I had seen there's so many more episodes of Z, so I went and watched Z, so I was rewatching all that. Man, it's mad that all of it was just filler, you know? It's crazy. But still, if you do want to watch Dragon Ball, Kai is the best option in my opinion. It's now completely finished and it has everything you need. But also, please watch this Gear 5 episode because it's going to be amazing. It is going to be fantastic. There's so much work and time put into this. We saw the teaser, which by the way, I kind of wish they didn't put out the teaser. It would have been good to see it first time, completely new. Because obviously I've seen the manga, but like the amount of stuff they're adding in terms of like animation flair and stuff like that, it's gonna be so cool, and I can't wait to watch it. I'm gonna talk about the whole episode in its own right when it comes out. I'm gonna try and finish it in the day. I'm going away the day after, so we're gonna have to rush it. You know what I mean? But still, man, it's going to be so great. But I think it's really hard to say. that it's more iconic. And I've outlined these reasons in this video. But doesn't mean it's not better. Man, the next few weeks are going to be so fire. Coming from a manga reader, like the next 5 weeks of anime episodes, it's going to be a fantastic fight. Definitely the best animated fight in the series. It's got to be at this point. From the last episode to this episode, it's got to be the best animated, the best stretch of animation we're going to get in this entire franchise. Man, it's going to be so beautiful. I cannot wait. So, enjoy Gear 5 with me, lads, alright? Because it's going to be super, super sick. And let me know how excited you guys are for Gear 5. Because I really want to know, see where people are gauging it. And do you agree with me that it's still not as iconic as Super Saiyan? That it's kind of dumb, because at the end of the day, you know, it's built on the idea of Super Saiyan and Tom and Jerry mixed together. That's what this transformation is based on. So it can't be more iconic than it when it hasn't stood the test of time like those two things have already. Do you know what I mean? Maybe eventually we can have a discussion like this, but it's only been out for a year in the manga. So that's basically my summarized opinion on it, right? But let me know if you guys have a different view on it. Maybe I'm missing the entire point of these discussions. I probably am. It's still a better transformation in my opinion. You know, Gear 5 is really cool, really creative. The stuff you can do with that transformation is far better. But it's still built upon the building blocks of Super Saiyan. That's why I think Super Saiyan is still more iconic. But let me know what you guys think. I'm really interested to hear how wrong I am or how right I am. You know, either way it works out. And yeah, have a great day.